Reaves Chapel was one of the original plantation churches for African Americans, or most of the black folks here. Religion was introduced through the plantation system. They allowed traveling preachers to come along, and they would build the plantation owners. If they had land and a significant amount of slaves, they would build a worship place for them. Most of the plantations, the rice plantations in particular, was located on the river because, those rice plantations needed water, right? And in order to grow rice, and that was a significant money crop back in antebellum days. They also required some expertise out of people in order to be able to do this rice planting. And that's where the Gullahs and the Geechees came here from West Africa, and they were experts at rice planting. They were a little bit more valuable than the other slaves because they had this skill. And so we had quite a few rice farms here in the Cape Fear area because of the Cape Fear River and Eagles Island, which is suitable for rice planting. Well, after the plantation dissolved with the Civil War, there was still a need for religion. The ex-slaves would get together and try to figure out a way to worship.
Yes, originally Reaves Chapel was built on the bluffs of the Cape Fear River by former enslaved African Americans who worked the rice plantations in the area. It was built between, I would say, 1885 and 1890. It was moved to its current position where we're filming from today around about 1922. And the way they moved it, they didn't have moving vehicles back in the day. So what they did was they got logs, and they got oxen and mules and horses, and they pulled it out of the woods, which is about 2.5 miles from here, and set it in the current location.
Folks would get together and buy a little piece of land and try to put themselves a church house on.
When my great-grandparents moved here in 1949, this is the first church that they attended. My great-grandfather is Gullah Geechee. I grew up in the area, and I remember family functions and growing up here, and this is where I got my start as a child in the Christian church.
I was born and raised in this area. I could walk here in maybe about 10 minutes to the church. My family connection was here. You see the bell tower at the top of that church? That used to ring when people died in our community.
I had a grandmother who was a pastor here, Reverend Juanita David, who's in the back of the cemetery now, but she's deceased. The community always would come together during Easter holidays, put on plays and everything at this church. It was just a good church to come to and unite.
I'm 93 years old, and I would like to see this church perhaps into some type of community building, and it would benefit this community and the younger generation that's coming on behind us that need to know more about this church.
One of the things that we found out is that the Gullah Geechees, right, the Gullah Geechee Historical Commission, right, they were looking at establishing a foothold here in southeastern North Carolina. Along came the idea of a museum or historical piece for this area. Also, there was a lot of interest in this Cedar Hill area, right, in maintaining, right, something that was theirs, something that would be significant for them, and not only significant for them, but significant for the whole southeastern North Carolina.
The church was it, so it was all that to our community. That's one of the reasons we want to preserve it, for the next generation can come here, touch it, feel it, become a part of it, and know where they come from. You don't know where you're going unless you know where you come from. It was last actively used around about 2005. During that time frame, you have to realize the storms that it endured, like Hazel and all the other hurricanes that it endured, and the last storm, Florence. But we're fortunate that we are partnering with the North Carolina Land Trust that we have installed a tarp before Florence to help protect the inside. The outside of the church looks pretty bleak, and it is. And we realized that we're going to have a long restoration process in store for us. The pews and really the interior of the church is in pretty good shape. Yes, we thought it would be a good idea to reintroduce the community to the church, I should say. And the timing just felt perfect that we have acquired it. So people can come out and see the condition of the church. If they want to rake a little bit or they want to snip a little bit, do this to just tidy it up just a tad, then we wanted to do that. And let them know that we are here, we are active, and we're going to do this.
Oh my gosh, she would be amazed at all the people that's here, the joining, the unity. She would be proud, and she would be talking about it nonstop.
Now, the real task begins as far as fundraising and getting the necessary people in place for all this to happen. My vision for Reaves Chapel is we eventually want to put it on the Federal Register. As far as inclusive of Reaves Chapel on the Gullah Geechee Heritage Quarter Trail. We're working on a state marker to designate it as a preserve to the estate and the community. We're going to be listed on a national preservation list of 11 most endangered preservation projects in the whole country.
I want to see our history preserved. I don't want us to fade away. I think that we are the root of the community, and without the root, the tree dies.
This church is really important to me because really the history is being lost if somebody don't tell it.